Hey guys, taking a little break from my usual. This video actually might not fit the theme of my channel, but I actually wanted to do this because, um, other than this, the theme of my channel, I do a lot of direct response marketing because I do a lot of e-commerce and I talk about a lot of e-commerce. I used to talk about a lot when I used to do like other social media stuff, but I kind of stopped. So anyway, I want to talk about this one because, I don't know, starting a new series. Anyway, why CPV? If you guys don't know what CPV is, it's a tool that direct response marketers use to basically increase the effectiveness of their direct response marketing, right? So let me kind of show you. Okay, how do I go next? Okay, so this is for people who do direct response marketing. This is obviously a tool. So there's all types of direct response marketers. Basically, people who pay for traffic. I guess you don't have to pay for traffic, but most of them do. So if you run e-commerce, if you are an affiliate marketer, you do lead generation, you run a game company, I don't know, you run mobile apps, and basically you want to bring the cost of acquisition down, and you want to be able to track so you can kill what doesn't work and keep expanding what works, right? So anybody who cares about cost per acquisition, right? Whether it be lead, sale, opt-in, download, whatever your metric is, right? Whatever your KPI is, that's what this was designed for. But this tool particularly, it's better suited for people who do multi-channel distribution. What I mean by that is not like search where there's only like really like one place where you can put advertising, right? Like Google.com. I'm talking about like those traffic sources where you get tapped into like millions and billions of websites or whatever it might be, right? So a good example is like native advertising, like you've seen those. You might also like those Taboola and Outbrain ads, or if you do media buying on other sites and you buy lots of them like direct, or if you run stuff on Google Display Network where you're buying, you're paying Google, but your stuff shows up in tons of other places, right? And you want to figure out what's working where. That's what it's suited for. Now, so this tool was designed for traffic sources have lots of other sources, right? So like they aggregate stuff. Before I get started, who am I? Obviously, that's me. The picture you see up on top right. So I run e-commerce and native and Facebook. I actually run GDN as well too. I run software company in parallel. And I ran one of the largest solo lead generation company. We bought a ton of traffic from GDN and real-time bidding network in the heydays, and so I know a lot about direct response marketing. And let me see if I can move my face. Those are the places that I've been mentioned. My company's been mentioned in. So I think I'm some kind of a joke or something. You can actually look me up on all these sites if you like. Anyway, that's my LinkedIn. All right, anyway, enough of that. Rah, rah. Why do you even need a tracker? Well, simple. Like one click generates a ton of information. I'm sure if you bought advertising, like right? Like they give you more data than you know what to do with. Like I will give you an example, right? This is actually not the actual. If you know what a MySQL database is, it needs a schema, basically like a design or how to store the data. That's actually not it, but I just couldn't find one that was sort of could kind of show you how complex it is. Like one click generates like 60, 100 pieces of points of data, right? And then now you have to look at that in aggregate, and you're just going to get a ton of information, and you're just not going to know what to do with it. So you need a tracker to basically do all kinds of fancy tracking. Now, when you have too many variables, like how do you do that? Like for example, so let's say you have a banner ad somewhere on some website, right? So now you have the placement, where it was placed, right? You have image, the actual banner ad, or the image, the native ad. Then you have the headline, then you have the landing page, then you have an offer page, then you have an upsell page, and you have more upsell pages. I mean, it gets pretty complex, right? Especially when if you want to track every step of the way, making sure that you do what works and cut out what doesn't work, right? Now imagine you have something like this where you can have multiple paths, right? Like the most simple one is like you have one campaign with one offer, and you just stick your banner ad on some known websites. That's the most simplest case. But what if you have multiple landing pages, right? Like you have multiple angles, you have multiple blogs, you have multiple videos, then you also have multiple headlines, you have multiple call to action, you have multiple everything, right? That is, but what if you do or even sequence? Like how are you gonna track all that? How are you gonna track every click, right? Or if you add something like opt-in in the middle, right? Or you have multiple options, like you can go that way, this way, left way, that, you know, if this person clicks on this, do that. If the person says this, show them that. Like, I mean, how are you gonna track all that? That's gonna be pretty close to impossible. So there's what CPV comes into play. This is like a tracker. Basically, tracks like every click, right? Also measures like engagement rate. If they clicked on this, played a video, downloaded this. This is like the original, like OG, right? Like this is the OG of tracking, right? This was released, I don't know, like last decade, right? So I remember using it in 2008, and at the time it was pretty revolutionary because all the direct response marketers I know, they had their own like little scripts for doing it. And this guy like released, I don't know who this guy is, but he released his product, and you could track like a whole bunch of stuff. Like even at the time, like, you know, tracking like carriers and like wireless carriers and like, you know, browser size and screen size. I mean, device type. I mean, that was pretty radical at the time. But I don't know what happened. This product kind of like fell out of market or something, and I guess it has some issues with management. But CPV Lab Pro 5 came out, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Like they actually made some stuff. I mean, this was one I originally used, and I went on to using other stuff, but they're all pretty much the same, right? I mean, others are sort of like more polished version of the same thing, but this was sort of revolutionary at the time because, you know, doing this type of level of tracking was sort of kind of new. I don't know what happened with the management, but they do have a new product, and I've been talking to the guy. I forgot his name is Radu or something like that. He seems pretty responsive, and so I don't know what the issues going on were at the time, but seems like he's okay. So anyway, now they're up to CPV Lab 5. Now, why do you need a self-hosted tracker? Well, I mean, you could disagree with me on this, maybe because I'm a technical guy and I know how to manage technology, but you need control in business, right? If you are building all your business on somebody else's website and you're using other people's software, you know, granted you pay, and so technically it's your data and stuff like that, but it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, you're running on somebody else's platform, right? So this concept is called digital sharecropping, right? The sharecroppers, I don't know if you guys know, back in the day, I think this still goes on in the world. Like you don't own the land, right? So the farmer goes out and leases the land from some guy. He says, okay, you know, you pay me X, you know, pounds of, you know, whatever, potatoes that you grow, and I'll let you use my farm. So the farmers go out, invest like 10 years of their life, make the farm from like dirt road, and then bam, now you have a great farm, and guess what? The landlord says, get out, right? So you invested 10 years of your life to make somebody else's land all that great, and then they kick you off, right? It's no good, right? This happened with Walmart. Like their first store was leased, and then the evil landlord guy kicked Sam Walton out, and Sam Walton learned a lesson, right? Only a 99-year lease, or you buy the property, right? That's why Walmart has properties everywhere. So anyway, that's digital sharecropping. So, I mean, you could probably Google this. Like, there's tons of people who got kicked off. Like, for example, Facebook and Twitter. There's a guy, I forgot his name. Infowars guy. Yeah, right. He has like pretty radical thoughts and like all these conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And he put them on Facebook and YouTube, and they're like, okay, you are way too controversial, and like you talk about stuff that might deem like racist or, you know, anti-woman, anti-gay, whatever. And they kicked him off, right? So he built like millions of followers. All of a sudden, they just kick him off. I mean, was it right that they kicked him off? I mean, you know, that's subjective, right? But that's not the point. The point is, you need to be in control when you're in business, right? You need to control your properties, your assets that you built. And if one day somebody decides to kick you off, like for example, Shopify, you know, is pretty well known for people using it just as, you know, as a drop shipping software. So people buy from China for like $2 and mark it up and sell on Facebook for $20, right? And then piss off everybody in the process. So, you know, sometimes Shopify is like, you know, we don't like that. You know, you sell bootleg software, fake stuff, illegal stuff, and they kick you off, right? And that's not cool because, whether or not, what you do, I mean, it's, I guess, determined by the market. It shouldn't be determined by these guys, right? Well, I mean, you shouldn't be doing that anyway, but kind of besides the point. So you need to control, right? So I always tell people use self-hosted solution, even if it means you need to hire somebody. You know what? That's cost of doing business. If you want to have control, you got to pay for it. You want somebody else to do the work? Well, yeah, it's more flexible. You just pay monthly and stuff. But guess what? One day they decide to cut you out, you're out of business. Another one is data. You want the data to be private, right? Because that data is your competitive advantage, right? Like if you buy a tracker, cloud, hosted tracker, right? There's like, I don't know, Volume or something like that, and there's another one called, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them, right? Where you pay monthly. But what happens is you're giving them all the data, okay? And you say, yeah, that doesn't matter because they're not gonna do anything with it. What are you talking about? That makes no sense. There are these two things called like spy tools. That's all they do is spy on other people, and they sell that data to you for like $400 a month. I mean, what are you talking about? They're not gonna do anything with it. That makes no sense. If I had a tracker and people were using my tracker, I'm gonna use that data. Why not? I mean, it's like, come on, it takes like thousands of dollars to optimize a funnel, right? And sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. If somebody gives it away, yeah, I'm gonna take it. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard was like, yeah, they don't care because they're in the business of selling tech and they don't. Come on, I make tech, okay, and I know what goes on underneath. When you click on delete on Facebook, things don't get deleted. They just don't show up. They don't get deleted. What are you talking about? Anyway, enough rant. Of course, the disadvantage is that you need technical capability. Luckily, unless you're driving like billions of clicks per month, I mean, to be honest with you, these trackers are mostly write heavy, not read heavy. So the odds of you like rampantly crushing this self-hosted tracker is fairly slim to none, right? So yeah, and suck it up. You want to have control over your life, your business life. I mean, this is what you got to do, right? So why CPV now? Well, back then when CPV was released, it was like PHP, I don't know, 4 or something like that, 3 or 5 or something like that. Back then it was so terrible that Facebook came out with this thing called HHVM. I think it stands for like Hip Hop VM, Virtual Machine, to speed it up. But PHP 7 got so fast, Facebook stopped supporting that product. PHP 7 is like super fast now. And all the optimization that happened in the past 10 years, now it's just included, so you don't have to do anything, right? Like Zend Upcache and stuff like that, it's all kind of there. Like you don't have to do anything. Back then, you need all this tech wizardry to do all that stuff, but now it's sort of off the shelf and it's pretty good. And MySQL had a fork to MariaDB. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Anyway, this company called Oracle bought this open source database called MySQL, and then people were like, that's evil, blah blah blah. So they started this thing called MariaDB, which is comparable. And I mean, there's pros and cons of both, but MariaDB is pretty good. And now back then, it was really hard to configure. For example, like back then it was called LAMP, right? Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. But now there's a thing called LEMP, which is LEMP. It stands for Linux, Nginx, which is spelled with an N in the beginning, MariaDB, and PHP 7. Really fast, I can tell you. There's WordPress websites that serve like billions of pages per hour on a single machine just using this, right? So people say like it doesn't scale, CPV doesn't work, blah blah. I mean, it's a proprietary software, so I don't know what it's doing underneath. I mean, it's encrypted. I mean, the code is encrypted, so we can't tell. But I can tell you, I mean, unless they're doing something really stupid, which I don't think they are, based on the coding, based on the fact that they built a tracker, it's probably good enough. Okay. And why CPV? I think this was probably a big thing for me, was that other self-hosted solutions have like ridiculous payment methods, right? There's like this thing called, I don't know. There's so many of them. Self-hosted trackers. You can just look them up. They charge like per event, right? They say up to like 1 million clicks, it's this much. But after that, it's like whatever, right? X plus Y dollars. Problem is that means that they're tracking your data, right? Which means they're somehow sending data back. And I will actually talk about this, but you can actually block outgoing information on your server and all that stuff. But anyway, like CPV has a flat model, right? So I mean, they don't care like if you run billion clicks or trillion clicks, like you pay the same amount. So that's why I think CPV, in my opinion, is a better deal. Now there are some unknown risks. Like for example, installation is hard, which is why in the next episode I'm gonna go over how to do it. I think there's a lot of people who bought it and they kind of had this issue with installation. Yeah, it's. I mean, you could tell like this tracker was made by super technical direct response marketer, not like a marketing guy who hired a technical guy to do it. I mean, it's pretty complicated. But the reason why I understand how it works is because I don't know. I just understand. It does have a huge learning curve for beginners. But to be honest, all trackers are like what is simple, right? It's not like drag drop. I mean, you still have to understand the concept behind it. The code is still encrypted, which means you have no idea what it's doing. For example, I like to add some optimization, especially in the database. Actually, you could do that without PHP, but I like to know how they call certain queries or something like that. But I understand, they wrote the software. I'm sure. I mean, given the extent of the code, the number of PHP files I've seen, probably took them a long time to build it. Anyway, another one, this is probably the biggest one, and it's still yet to be determined. It still seems to be kind of issue with the management, but so far it's been okay. So, maybe they fix stuff. So I think it's worth the risk. It's definitely worth it given the alternative, right? It seems like you either pay now with your time and kind of like grunt work and understanding how this stuff works, or they make it super easy for you, the other guys, and they just charge you up the butt, and you pay more, right? Anyway, that's it. I think you should give CPV a try. I think it's worth it. The documentations are a little sparse, so maybe I will kind of do more stuff on that. The next installation, I'm gonna talk to you about how to do installation on DigitalOcean. Actually, it could be any. I should have said it shouldn't be DigitalOcean. It should be called Ubuntu or Linux machine or something. So it's going to be a LAMP stack with IonCube, which is a PHP decryption thingy, and Let's Encrypt with DNS. I don't understand why people still run web stuff on HTTP, not HTTPS, given that Let's Encrypt you get free SSL certificates. I still understand why people pay for it. And doing the installation stuff with the files and all that stuff. Anyway, that is my overview of CPV Lab. It's one of the OG trackers. I would definitely give it a try again. I think it's worth it. And the installation is a little funky, but if you guys pass that page, once you start using it, it will kind of make sense how it works. Anyway, that is all, and I will see you in the next episode.